Good afternoon, everyone. Shane McPhail here with RSI. Today we are going to be reviewing the new features that will be in tomorrow's release, version 8.18, that will be released on October 7th, 2015. So we'll start with complex passwords. So with PCI standards, so PCI being the payment card industry, there are a number of standards that we adhere to stay PCI compliant. And one of those is having a method or requirements for password creation. So right now you could frankly put the number 1 and we would not stop you for entering that into the system. So we have employed a method of, a commonly used method of complex password creation. So when creating a password, if I go into if I go into system configuration, clerks, and there will be a little bit of a delay as well as I am accessing the server in Vancouver, and I, of course, am in Nova Scotia, and I'm on the beta version, so it is a little bit of a different access point than you may have, than you will have, I should say. And just bear with me for a moment. I am going to see if we can get the connection restarted back at the office here. And actually, I'm going to stop the recording since we just started here. Good afternoon, everyone. Shane McPhail here with RSI. Today we are going to be reviewing the new features for release 8.18 that is going to be going out on October 7th, 2015. So the first area we're going to start with is complex passwords. Complex passwords are part of our dedication to staying within the PCI, payment card industry, compliance standards. So with PCI compliance, you do have to have a certain method or requirements for complex password creation. So if I go into system configuration, clerks, and we'll just wait a moment here. And just so you guys know, this is my connection to the Vancouver beta server. So the real room key that you guys are accessing would not be doing the same thing. So not to worry that your front desk is having the same difficulties as I am here. So let's talk about the complex password as we're trying to get in here. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have a 90-day period before your passwords expire. When we turn this on as of tomorrow, any existing clerks are basically going to have a 90-day period before they have to reset their password. So not to worry, it's not like tomorrow when we flip the switch. It's going to require all your people to redo their passwords. It's going to be 90 days, and then they're going to start to get warning 10 days out from the day of expiration. So basically, you'll go to login, it'll say your password will expire in 10 days, and it'll give you the option to update the password right at that moment or continue with login. Of course, we recommend updating your password as soon as possible instead of clicking on the continue with login too many times. When you get down past that expiration, you'll finally be brought to the time where it will say password is expired, change password. So your only option will be to change the password at login at that point. So you certainly want to address that issue before you have a lineup of 20 people at your front desk and you're trying to create a new password. Okay, I'm just getting word from Stock. Okay, so when we get into the password or into the clerks area, you are going to see here right away we have a password. So currently in the current room key, you're going to see a password and a repeat area. So here I'm going to add a new user. We're going to put in the login name as before. And then we're going to go to the password button here. So here we have the requirements that are needed. So first, must be at least 10 characters long, must contain at least one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, and one number. Now, number 5 here, it says can contain special characters. So this is not required, but we just want to let you know that you could do special characters. We're not going to block it. And you cannot contain the login name. Okay, the password will expire and system will give warning when password is about to expire. So let's break the rule here. And after I click OK, I can see that I've broken 3 of the rules. So it's not 10 characters. I don't have one uppercase. I don't have one lowercase. So RoomKey is going to let you know if the rule is not being met here when you try to save the password. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. We've now completed the new password. I click Post. And that will eventually save here. And there we go. Okay, so let's look at the warnings that you're going to get. So G Butler is trying to log in today. And here it says the password will expire in 3 days. So our choice is here, we can update the password right away or continue with login. If we continue with login, we're now brought in under Gary Butler. I'm going to log out again, and we're going to go to another one. And here this password has expired. So notice that the continue with login is grayed out. So once we get to that 10-day countdown being gone, you're going to have to update the password, and it will bring you in where you have to repeat the old password and then put in the new password you want to create. Okay, so moving on from our passwords here. And again, just as a reminder, it'll be 90 days before your staff will start to get the warnings that they need to change those passwords. Next is GDS confirmation numbers. So for those of you out there that have a interface with us for the GDS, whether it be the Synexus, Windsurfer, Expedia, Booking.com, TravelClick, and so on, when those reservations flow through from the GDS IDS interface, it is going to save the confirmation number into room key. It's going to get its own field. So if I go to the search and go to this search, we have GDS confirmation number here. And if I go to search, advanced search, we have GDS conf search here. So I'm going to go ahead and search for one I put in. Click on search with the number. And here we have Dallas Green. I'm going to click OK. And that will bring me to the in-house reservation. And if I go to change stay, guest info tab, you're going to see the GDS confirmation number here. So again, the confirmation number is going to flow through the interface onto the booking. Now we did make it for hotels that have the interface with us that if you click New Res, if you have more than one GDS with us, so say you had Expedia and SiteMinder or Expedia and Synexus, you could then choose Expedia and manually put that number in. So the times where something might be wrong with the interface, something may be wrong with Expedia, whatever it may be, you can then manually put it in by choosing the correct one and entering it in here. Okay, so the searching feature works. So now I'm going to check this guest out. And we're going to check them out to City Ledger, to the Astra account. Now if I go into operations, we're going to go to City Ledger. And if I go to the search in City Ledger, you'll now see that we can search by GDS conf number as well. So just like the res ID, PO number, invoice number, we can search by. So in here, we'll put the number again. And that brings me to the Dallas Green invoice that just got created. We're going to go into View Details to see the invoice. I'm going to go to the transferred line, and on the transferred line is where we're going to see the GDS confirmation number associated with Dallas Green. And if I print this invoice out, you'll also see that we put the GDS confirmation number printed out here. Because sometimes there are hotels that will use the GDS confirmation number almost like a purchase order number or a PO number with the OTA. So we've listed that on the folio. Now, one side note about this, I'm going to go back into Astra. We're going to go to invoices. I have a second invoice here, Heather Mack. We'll go to invoice details, transferred. And here you'll notice I actually have two guests. I have Heather Mack, and she has one Expedia confirmation, and Billy Conley, who has a different Expedia confirmation. So if you put two guests on one invoice, and they were two separate reservations, as these two are, Res ID 1721 and Res ID 720, we're still going to hold the GDS confirmation number of each of those bookings, so that when we print the invoice as well, both those will show up for you. So Heather's and Billy's. Okay, so that's everything with our GDS confirmation numbers. Next, we're going to talk about our booking code reporting. So by booking code, I am talking about our ERES, online booking engine. So within ERES, if I search for availability, we're going to see all the rates that we have available to every guest out there without doing a booking code. And by booking code, I mean a coupon code, a group code, a promo code, or the corporate promo codes that we have in RoomKey as well. So any of those special codes that you would put in to see a special rate. So here we're seeing all our regular rates, our best available, friends and family rate, and whatever else we have available. So here I'm going to go to our coupon code. I'm going to put in Facebook and search. And I have an online booking promotion for Facebook, and it's a crazy good deal. And we're going to go ahead and make a booking for the Facebook deal. Okay, we're going to complete the booking. Okay, so we just made Res ID 1730. So we're going to cut over to RoomKey, and we're going to go and search Res ID 1730. Okay, and there we have Mike Krause. This is a Facebook special that we put them on. And the way that we're doing the tracking now, some hotels track based on rate code itself. And you can run any various rate code reports that we have, any market segment reports that are tied to those rate plans. So a lot of hotels are able to use the rate plan as a tracking. We've gone this step further because there are hotels out there that may have several promo codes or different access points for the same rate plan. So we may have like a spring special rate that we're putting out on Facebook, Twitter, so we have two different promo codes for one rate plan. So this allows us to book it. And the way that we're going to do the booking is with the use of the source of business. So when a reservation is made, it's going to take your default source of business that you have marked for ERES, and it's going to add the code that you've put on there. So here we have web reservation Facebook. So if I go into system configuration, property, where our source of business is, we can see here that I have web and the name web reservation set as my default for ERES. So whatever one you have checked off here, we're going to use that. RoomKey is then going to take that name and it's going to add the code on. So here we have web reservation Facebook added on here. And this will now become the new source of business code. So any reports that we have out there, and we have 6, I believe, altogether, or 7 on Source of Business, any of the Source of Business reports that exist now within Roomkey and Business Intelligence will show the Source of Business as well. You'll see here I have a couple of other ones. The web reservation, this is a group ID code that we put in. This is a client type code that I put in, and this is a corporate one that I put in. So all 4 of those methods are going to work. As far as the code itself, you'll notice what Roomkey is doing is it's taking the web and adding the TRAN ID of when the code is created. And this is just our way of doing a unique code. Now, for those hotels out there that may have modified, so our default ERES one is always going to be web. Some hotels will go in and change this to like website. And what would happen is Roomkey would then, so say for example for Facebook, it would actually take off the T and E and put the 12 in here. So not to worry if you have made this 7 characters long, that is the max length of this field here. We'll still truncate it and put in the number at the end here. Okay, so again, our reports that we have in Roomkey and BI, whether it be the statistical reports, where we have the room nights and ADR by source of business, room nights and ADR by source of business, including previous year to date. You have the checked out by source of business. Under our forecast menu, we're going to have our property activity forecast by source of business, and as well over in our BI, if you go into our revenue reports, you're going to see here we have total revenue by source of business. Okay, so all those booking codes are going to show up under all these source of business reports that are currently existing in the 2 areas. Okay, so moving on from booking codes. Next we have is our canceled group report. So currently in Roomkey, if you cancel a group, there is no report that shows the group that was canceled. So what we've added under operations, groups, I'm going to go ahead and take our Talk World Discovery group here. This is arriving on November 1st, and we're going to cancel the group. Are you sure you wish to cancel the selected group? Yes. Group successfully canceled. Okay. So now if I go into reports, cancel groups, and we're going to run this for November. So very important to take note here. This is based on when the group was happening, not the date it was canceled. Because really, what we're trying to look at here, what was the opportunity lost here? So if I look at the month of November, it's going to show me all the groups that were canceled for that time frame and give me an idea of potential revenue that we lost in that time frame. So November 1st, November 30th, and we have 2 groups here. We have the Green Miller Wedding and Talk World Discovery. We're capturing the group ID, the arrival date, number of nights, departure date, the total amount of rooms for the group, the total revenue and ADR for the group, the market segment. So if you have a rate plan attached to the group that has a market segment, the market segment will indeed show up. If you're using a manual rate, or if you're using a rate plan that does not have a market segment attached, this will be blank. And then here we have the date that the group was actually canceled. Now, one thing I want you to take note of here, I'll make this a little bit bigger for you. I ran this report from November 1st to November 30th but the green Miller wedding was actually arriving on the 31st for 3 nights. So the decision here was made, if we had have made it based on arrival only, there's a chance that you could miss a group on a report. So say I had a group that was arriving, staying for 3 months. If you don't choose the right arrival date, that group wouldn't show up at all. So basically, the dates that you choose, if the group is touching those dates, as it is here, we're going to display it on this report, and it's going to display the overall revenue of the entire group for all 3 nights. Okay, so it's just an important distinction to know that we're showing all groups that touch those dates. Okay, next is a small change, but a big impact. Under reports, reservations, we have the print guest notes, and this feature is actually already in RoomKey. We went ahead and turned this on, I believe, about a week and a half ago. And basically, we had before print guest notes by arrival date, so you could look at all reservations arriving today or tomorrow or even next week to look at all the guest notes. But it did not show in-house guests, the notes. So what we've added is a secondary report. So you can print guest notes for all in-house guests. So any notes like likes extra towels and whatnot is going to show up on this report for all in-house guests. Will be displayed here. I just do want to point out, though, under Operations Message Center, there is a feature where you can add tasks and attach those tasks to specific reservations. So for really important stuff that you don't want to miss, you may want to look at doing it as a task and assign it to specific people instead of just relying on a note. Certainly this report is good for printing out notes, but for tasks it associates it to a clerk and makes them responsible for it. Okay, next is guest profile export modification. So under Operations, guest profile, I'm going to go to the export option. I'm going to look at all guests that are checked out and click on Get Export Data. And so what we've added here, if I look back at this screen, over on the right-hand side, we have room nights, stays, average stay, revenue, reservations, and cancellations for the guests that I'm on. So in the export, those fields were never available for the export, so we've added these as fields to the export. So here if I add the room nights on, the stays, average stay, and so on, that's going to be added. And then you can export to CSV and then do whatever data mining you want to do within the CSV export that you do. Okay, so all these stay information we've added to the export. Not this part, the previous day, nights, and room number, just the 6 figures up top. Okay, next we're going to talk about BI and the changes that we've made over there. Okay, the first one being our revenue reports. So this is actually in effect right now. If you try to run a report, you'll notice that it is now limited to a 2-month time range. What was happening is we didn't have a limit on the time range that you could send the revenue reports. So you could choose a year, and at times it was only returning 2 months worth of data, or even worse, it was timing out from the amount of data that we're pulling here. So what's going to happen now is when you run these reports, you can only run it for a 2-month period. We are pulling a mass amount of information for these reports, and it's calculated every time. So we don't store this somewhere because we can go for future dates. It's basically every time we're running the report, it is calculating. We will be looking for efficiencies down the road, but at this point, it is a 2-month period. And again, just so you know, even though before you could choose a longer length of time, it really was only returning 2 months worth of data. Next, under revenue, while we're in here, the total revenue by rates. report. Previously, packages were displaying as a manual rate. So the change we've made is now the base rate plan. So that rate plan that you use to build the package, that is what's going to show up on the total revenue by rate. This will also affect the total revenue by market segment here. Because market segments are attached to rate plans, before when it was manual rate, there is no market segment on manual rate, so it would be showing as undefined here. So now that we've been able to include the base rate, whatever market segment you have on your base rate will affect this report as well. We did have an issue with the hide blanks not working. So you are going to see that the blanks are now working. So you'll notice here, like I'm skipping days, October 12th to October 26th. We're not showing any of the zeros in here. Under the statistics area and under area, any of the addresses that were coming up were just showing up blank or showing up as a, we had a weird symbol in there, quite frankly. So now you're going to see undefined if the area is left blank. And as well, under statistics, we did have an issue where, let's say we had a group that was in-house for 3 days, and the room charges were actualized on the guest room for the 3 days. On day of checkout, all the room charges were transferred from the guest rooms over to a house account. Now what this report was doing, it was actually counting the transfers from the guest rooms over to the house account. So we were ending up with a large negative amount of revenue being posted on those days. But a transferring of room charges from a guest room to a house account, it's really a function of billing. It should not be affecting the statistics. We want to actualize the revenue on the room that happened on and report on that, not the fact that it got transferred to a house account for billing. So that has been corrected, that the negatives to house account will no longer take effect. Okay, a few more tweaks and defects to get through. Okay, next is in our room key. Last release, we added the GDS linking. And what we did this time was we added a couple of more filters here for you. So when you first come into the list, we're seeing all the rate plans, and you're going to be seeing inactive rates. But what we decided to do is, by default, we're not going to show inactive rate plans. So if I click on display inactive room key rates, then they'll show up. But the idea was, why do we want to show inactive rate plans? The other thing is packages. We are not going to display packages by default. Most times you're not going to, most hotels don't use packages for the GDS linking. But for those hotels that do use it for flow down, we can now show packages on here. Packages are a unique thing for the GDS because we cannot send up the rate plus the inclusions, so there's a couple of special ways to deal with packages on GDS. If you do need more information on that, please let support know and they can help you with that, but most times packages are not used for the GDS. Okay, for those properties with Heartland payments, we now have the ability to post negative payments. Guest notes. If you go into Operations Guest Profile, currently there's a box here for guest notes and there's the View Guest Notes button. So we're holding guest notes in two areas. You're now going to see that that box is gone. and you have view guest notes. We didn't get rid of any of the guest notes. It's just now we're storing them all in one area. We've had some difficulty with guest notes across chain hotels, and it's because we're storing it in two separate areas, and there really is no reason for us to store it in two separate areas. So you're going to see all the guest notes in the one consolidated area. Okay, next is a change we made. So if I'm making a new reservation, and I go into guest profile, I'm going to search for Mac. I'm going to use Batista here and click OK. Now let's say at the exact time, another clerk in the back or next to me or whatever is in the process of merging guest profiles. If they were to merge Batista into another profile, because that guest disappeared, we had a little bug where, or actually a pretty significant bug where the reservation was actually disappearing and you couldn't find it, but it was being taken out of inventory. It's just because the guest never existed anymore. So what's going to happen is if you pull up someone from guest history, and you try to click OK, so they've already completed the merge on the other computer, it will now say this guest profile no longer exists, you need to search for a new one, or something like that. I can't remember the wording exactly, but that'll come up for you. Okay, and that should alleviate the issue with disappearing reservations. Okay, next small little tweak that we did under reports, reservations. For those of you who use the tape chart, printout, we actually had an issue where names were being cut off, and it was actually taking the last name and being like the last few letters of the last name instead of showing the first few letters. So that's been changed, that you're going to be able to better see the guest name on this report. And that is it for tweaks and defects, and that is it for today's presentation. So I do appreciate all of you for hanging in there with me in the beginning. I do apologize for the issues that we had. Again, it is my VPN connection into the server directly, our beta version, so it wouldn't be anything affecting your real room key. So thank you for hanging in there. I am going to stay on the line in case there are any questions that anyone has. I don't see any questions in there right now, but I'll stay on the line. And certainly, if you have no other questions, please feel free to go ahead and dismiss yourself. Okay, and we do have a question for password change message. So the question is, what will happen if the user has not upgraded to the latest version? Their old password will work, and they will not be given the warning after 90 days. So it's only when you're on the latest version, and of course we encourage everyone to be on the latest version of RoomKey, that they will have to do the update. Okay, and again, I'm just going to stay on the line here for a little bit. We have a couple of attendees left. You're welcome, Holly. Okay, and I think most people have dropped off the call here. Unfortunately, I can't see if anyone's typing any messages in. So again, I'm just going to hang tight for a bit. I'm going to stop the recording here.